Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Bible Study Minute. Today we're taking a look at Ezra chapters 9 and 10. And when we look at these chapters, the book of Ezra does not end the way you would expect it to. Instead, there's a lot of drama going on, and if we're being honest, it's difficult to wrap our mind around the response that happens in accordance to the issue that was brought up. So let's talk about it. So chapter 9 begins with the leaders coming to Ezra, letting him know that there is a problem among the exiles who have returned to the land of Judah and Israel. And what we see is that these people, these exiles who have returned, have intermarried with the surrounding people. And if we go back to the law of Moses, this was something that was forbidden because if we look at Israel's history up to this point, because people did not listen to this, it led to sin, rebellion, and idolatry among the people. Because they intermarried, they were no longer worshiping and serving the Lord, but serving foreign gods. And returning to Israel, they were repenting of their sins. God had given them another opportunity to repent, return to Him, and this was just a slap in the face to what God had wanted. And so Ezra rips his clothes, falls to his knees, and just cries out to the Lord and confesses Israel's sin and just asks God, what are they to do in response to this? So the people come to him in a matter of days, and pretty much the whole assembly is gathered together, and they're like, all right, what are we going to do about this? And someone comes up with the solution of divorcing their wives, putting them away, and the solution was for them to then select leaders to examine every family, and those who were found to have intermarried and these intermarriages who were not worshiping the Lord, because it was permitted to have intermarriage and for them to fully assimilate and worship the God of Israel, but not if they were going to worship the pagan gods. So the solution was to put away these wives and even the children that were born to them, and to send them away and to divorce them. And when we see the list of names in Ezra, we see about 100 names listed in Ezra chapter 10 that were forced to separate from their wives and divorce them and their children. So what's the takeaway from this? First and foremost, this is a really strange situation. Let's be honest. We know first and foremost that God does not condone divorce, but in this situation, it was a matter of national holiness and purity, so as to prevent the sin that led them to the state that they were currently in. And so the people took drastic measures to to remove that sin from them. And so that's what we see going on here. This is not necessarily something that God prescribes for us today, because we can go to 1 Corinthians and see a clear picture for how believers ought to respond to marriage and divorce. But what we see here is a response to the seriousness that God has for sin and how serious He is about His holiness. And for us, the takeaway is realizing that sometimes there are drastic measures that we need to take when we are confronted with our sin. And those drastic measures are going to hurt sometimes. There are going to be consequences that we have to live with as a result of that sin and disobedience, but there have to be drastic measures taken to separate ourselves from that sin and rebellion so that we can walk with the Lord. So that is the main takeaway, not to go divorce your spouse. So that is what we have here in Ezra chapters 9 and 10. And like I said, it's a difficult passage to wrap your mind around, but the application is very clear. God is concerned with His holiness and sin, and He wants us to be serious about it as well. So until next time, grace and peace.